Okay, so this is going to be a walkthrough of the Spraypoxy MidiCoater unit. So some notable features to start off is you have your air connection in the back and your power plug. So that's just going to hook into a 110 volt power outlet. And then you're going to have a emergency stop button on the back. But looking at the actual unit, you're going to have some knobs right here. These are what are going to be controlling your epoxy and your spray head and your brush. So on the right side, you'll see a spray feature. This is what's going to control the pressure going to your spray head. So this is basically just what's going to make it spin faster or slower. So you're going to have a knob on the bottom that just has a on and off switch. That's just a safety feature that they put in. So if you turn it on, the knob will twist and you can turn it to whatever pressure you like. On this side, you're going to have a press button. This is what controls the pistons on the top. So in the second slide, I'll show this with a cartridge inside of here and show how the pistons move. But basically, you have two options. You have a press and a back option. The back option makes the pistons back up, and the press option makes them go forward. And then the off switch is just to stop the pistons from moving. So we're gonna go to the press option, and we're gonna turn this up to 2 bars. That's what's gonna get those pistons moving. So you can see those pistons start to move. And then we're gonna go back. Those pistons will back up. And we're gonna turn our pistons off and turn down our pressure. So what that's gonna do is these pistons are gonna push on the back of the cartridge and start pushing your epoxy material into your epoxy hoses and out to your spray head or your brush setup. On the left here, you're gonna have an on and off switch. This is just for the main power on the unit. Below that, you're gonna have a RPM meter, and that is to control the RPMs on your brush cable. So there is a engine inside of this unit that controls your cable, so you can descale and brush from the same unit. So you're gonna have a left to right option. This cable can actually spin left or right. But basically the way you hook it up is there's a little adapter that goes in right there, 1 Allen screw to turn it, and now your cable is hooked into the unit. So we have a brush right here that is hooked up to the unit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn our brush to the left. So that's gonna get this brush to start spinning. And we can turn the RPMs up to 2000, or we can turn them down to 600. Now the cool feature is when you turn your brush to the right option, it'll actually stop the cable and then start spinning, so it won't kink up. So we'll go to the right, it'll start spinning to the right, we'll go back to the left. So you can turn either direction with this cable, and that's how the brush is set up. This unit does have a clutch inside, so if you get to a hard spot while you're descaling or brushing, there is a clutch option, so that way the cable won't snap on you. So that is the brushing feature and the main features on the unit. In the next slide, we're gonna go over the spray head option. Okay, so now we're gonna go over the spray head option. So as you can see, I added the cartridge to the unit. All of our cartridges come like this with the base and accelerator inside. This one's been used, so it's about halfway down, but it basically sits inside of the unit just like that. And what'll happen, and as we saw in the last slide, when you turn the press to the press option, these pistons will push into the cartridge and start pushing that epoxy through the hose. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn on our spray head. You can see I have it hooked up there, and we can kind of go over how the spray head works. But what you're gonna have on your epoxy hoses is an air line. So you can see we have our base, which is going to be the white, and our accelerator, which is going to be the blue side. But there's going to be one more hose attached to your epoxy hose, which is going to be the air. So at the bottom of the unit, we have a air hookup right here. This is just another push connect fitting. So to take it out, you would just push on that, and to put it in, you just push it in. So super easy to hook up and disassemble. It's just a push connect fitting. So on the bottom end here, our epoxy hoses are going to come out. And as you can see, these ones are capped off, so you can just cap them off after use. On the front of the spray head, we are going to have what we call a static mixer, but this is where the epoxy mix is at. So you can see there's spirals inside of this tube, and the epoxy two components mix in this tube before they get to the spray head. And then once they get to the end at the tip, this head will be spinning and it'll start spraying the epoxy out. So on the bottom of the spray head, you'll see two fittings. One is for the static mixer, so for the epoxy to go through, and the other side is for the air connection. So that's where the air goes through on the spray head. So for the air to hook up on the spray head, there's just another push connect fitting. And where the epoxy hoses hook up, it's just another push connect fitting as well. So super, super simple. Those are really gonna be the only consumables that you're going to end up going through. But yeah, so what we'll do is we'll go to our unit and we're going to turn our spray head on, and then we're going to turn up our pressure. And as we turn up our pressure, you'll start to see the spray head move. Okay, so when we turn our pressure down, you can see the spray head stops. We'll go ahead and turn that spray head on one more time. So what would happen is our Y connector would be hooked up to our epoxy hoses. That epoxy would be traveling through the static mixer, mixing, and then getting to our head where it would start to spray out the epoxy. So we'll turn our pressure down. Turn our spray head off. And then what we can do is after our coat is done and we're outside of the pipe, we can disconnect our epoxy hoses from the Y connector. So these will come off and you can cap them off with these caps right here. And then we can wash out our static mixer, Y connector, and spray head. So this is just a push connect fitting, so it'll pop off, and then you have your spray head set up, and we have a washing machine where you can wash out the static mixer and reuse this. So that's just a basic walkthrough of the unit and some of the features on it. If there's any more questions, you guys can always come down to our facility and we can train you on it or give you a demo.